Heard that. Welcome back to the Gridiron Address. We are here week 9, and with me, hasn't been on since week 1, had to bring him on though. It's the president of Boom Broadcasting, Michael Davis. Love having him on the show, even though he's a Cowboys fan. Michael, how are you doing tonight?
Well, I would be better if I had a better introduction, and I'd also be better if Dallas had won today, but there's so many other games to talk about. Can we just focus on that?
God, it feels so good to have your team win. It feels really good.
Yeah.
App State picked up a win. You can see that. I got my classic live show shirt because it's the only thing that my mic will clip onto. But we'll transition real quick, talking about the Panthers. Chris, overtime coverage. Hopefully we'll still be live when that game ends so we can talk about that. I'm going to be checking my phone for score updates and everything. Jason also watching. Jason, appreciate you. That's another guy who I've had on a couple times, Jason Colenso. 3 from Deep, co-host of Sideline Savants. Great guy, great shows. Go check his stuff out. Also check Chris's stuff out. Dugout Debrief. He's going to have some great off-season stuff coming at you next couple months. But Panthers recap. They finally pick up a win. For week 1 rematch against the Saints, they scrape by. I gotta look. I'm happy they win. I despise the Saints with every ounce of my being. That is my least favorite team in the NFL. So it's great to see the Panthers beat them, but to have a little caveat, the Saints wide receiver core is beat up. I mean, Chris Olave with a really scary concussion. Super happy that he was able to fly back with the team. You hate to see it happen to any player, really, except maybe a certain Browns player who I've mentioned on the show before. But that's old news. He's not playing again this season. But Young looked pretty solid. The interception he threw was not his fault. It was an amazing throw from Bryce Young. But Shamar John Charles, App State alum, made an insane pick against Xavier Legette, which, I mean, you love to see it as a App State fan and someone who went there. Mm-hmm. Didn't like to see it as a Panthers fan because I didn't notice he picked it off at first. And I was like, oh, let's go, Bryce Young. Absolute dot. Oh, wait, he threw an interception. Damn. But, also seeing rookies look good. Jatavion Sanders, tight end, had a massive play. Jalen Coker, undrafted free agent from Holy Cross. He's looking pretty solid. Had a couple good catches as well. So super happy to see some young pieces doing well. Now, Michael, you might not have had to talk about the Panthers for 8 weeks this season. I have, though. I'm getting a little sick of it at this point, even though I love them because it feels like same old, same old. Saw the same holes in the defense. Derek Brown's absence is going to be missed this entire season. Alvin Kamara, 140-something rushing yards, absolutely killed him. Mm-hmm. Shannon in the comments, congrats, Aaron, and boo Cowboys. I gotta agree with him. Shannon also talks about the Panthers week in, week out. It's exhausting. I respect that you do this all the time too, him and Ryan Frick. But Michael, I like asking all my guests this question as it relates to the Panthers. Are you in favor of them blowing it all up and embracing the rebuild, embracing that, 2-3 years of really sucking until you can get something solid built up? And should Bryce Young be a piece that they move? Is the project done, or do you see something that they can actually build on and build around?
Well, dude, I was looking at all the people the Panthers gave up, Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Brian Burns, Frankie Louvu's gone, and you can just start naming guys who are no longer in the Panthers organization. And you see Christian McCaffrey, probably the biggest loss the Panthers have had, and they probably won't recover from that. All to trade up for Bryce Young. And they also gave up trade capital. So they don't have all these draft picks that they can build off of. So there's really no point in tanking because you don't have all the draft picks that you need in order to rebuild this team. I feel like once you get good players into your building, unless you can get real return for those players, you keep them in the building as long as you can, especially if they're not, causing chaos or ruckus in the locker room and, bringing dissension and division in between your players. I say you keep them. Now, of course, like Bryce Young, if you're truly just selling him and your plan is to take a quarterback in this year's draft, then yeah, go ahead, trade him to a team like Miami, trade him to a team that, needs somebody to build off of at the quarterback position and may be a quarterback away or may have quarterback health issues like I mentioned with the Dolphins. But hey, quality win. This is why division games, they can be toss-ups. No matter how good, no matter how bad the team is, it's always up to the division games. Now, if you had asked me after the Saints trounced the Cowboys week 2 and trounced the Panthers the week before, if you had told me that the Saints would be 2-7, tied with the Panthers for the worst record in the NFC South, I'd call you crazy. Yeah, I don't know if they beat the Eagles, but I expect them to at least beat the Falcons at least once. I'd at least expect them to, challenge the Buccaneers, the Broncos, the Chargers. And none of these games have been close except for this one when they allowed the Panthers to go on that game-winning drive. I don't know what happened. I don't know. I mean, dude, I don't know what happened with the Saints, but all of a sudden they were on cloud 9. And, dude, they are in the weeds trying to figure out what's happened.
Yeah, I mean, Panthers looked like a real football team. Follow the Saints in Carr. Not all NFC South squads are looking rough. Michael knows a little something about the Atlanta Falcons. They look good against the Cowboys, and that's going to be a perfect transition to our next segment, recapping that Cowboys game. An already rough season for Dallas gets worse. They've dealt with the injury bug what feels like the entire season. Dak had to exit the game early with a hamstring injury. I think that's what it said on the little score bug at the bottom. But Michael, what went wrong for Dallas this week, do you think?
Well, dude, like we already came into this game shorthanded. You had, by the way, I want to update people on the Seahawks and Rams game. This isn't just me procrastinating talking about my Cowboys loss, but it is 2020, about 7.5 left, 4th and 1 for Seattle, and we're going to keep you updated on that overtime game. That's why Aaron wanted to do.
I could win in our dynasty league if Kenneth Walker or Jackson Smith-Njigba gets a touchdown.
Well, Seattle's at the 16 right now, and then of course the Rams take a timeout, which will give me time to talk about the Cowboys. We were without Deron Bland, we were without Micah Parsons, so all of a sudden it's like, okay, we're missing some guys. We knew we would be without DeMarcus Lawrence. We knew we'd be without Brandon Cooks, still on IR. But, dude, Zeke didn't even travel because he's been late to practice. Mm-hmm. He's been excessively tardy is what was called. So all of a sudden you're handicapping yourself. I didn't doubt Jane Daniels. What are you talking about, Andrew? What are you talking about? I didn't do that. Find the clip. I dare you. Find the clip.
You know what? I'm sorry to cut. You know what we can find a clip of, though, Michael? You saying that a certain Ezekiel Elliott was getting, what was it, 10, 11 touchdowns, you said?
11 touchdowns.
Now he's not even traveling with the team?
Okay. Fair.
Cowboy season's over, like Jason said.
Giant season's been over, too. So let's be fair. It's not all doom and gloom for Cowboys fans. It's doom and gloom for a lot of people. Seahawks stopped Rams ball at their own 16. So they'll try to drive the field and try to kick a field goal, win this game in Seattle. But dude, like it was bad enough with the injuries we went into it with, and there was like some fight and I'll have more time to process when Dad and the Boys airs on Tuesday. But dude, when CeeDee Lamb is, playing with one arm, when Dak hurts his hand and then hurts his hamstring, when Terrence Steele can't block a guy to save his life, I wish Terrence Steele would get a holding call, because that means he's actually doing something. Tyler Guyton is the one getting all the penalties and backing us up. But I'll be honest. Yes, the injury sucked and it obviously derailed this game, but my initial reaction is this is the first time I believe Mike McCarthy actually cost us the game. And I like McCarthy. I really do. I think not a lot of coaches can take you to 3 consecutive 12-win seasons like McCarthy has. But the Cowboys call a timeout, 4th and 1, and they miss it, and then all of a sudden the Falcons go and score a touchdown. Okay, the second timeout Mike McCarthy uses, they decide to take Dak Prescott off the field and decide to punt the ball. But no, it's a fake punt, and all of a sudden, Andrew, shut up. This was a bad idea for me to come on today. Andrew, I appreciate you watching the Gridiron Address today. Even though my Cowboys lost, and you're giving it to me, man. Kudos. I'll take it. But why do you pull Dak off the field on 4th down if you're just going to do a fake punt? Like, why would you do that? And there was another touchdown that they just shouldn't have had. There was a bad play where Trayvon Diggs wasn't even in position because the coach didn't put him in position to make the play. My initial gut reaction was McCarthy lost the game for the Cowboys, along with injuries, but your coach should put the 53 men available in the best position as possible. And there were aspects today I don't think he did it because he wasted timeouts. Didn't have great play calls on offense. And it ultimately led us to losing in Atlanta.
Jason saying McCarthy might need to go. That's something that I feel like needs its own 10-minute segment to talk about that we don't really have time for right now, but that's something I would love to jump into at some point.
There will be a lot of content on Out of Pocket and Dad and the Boys this week, for sure.
Chris saying Mike McCarthy looks like a thumb, and apparently he coaches like a thumb too. But quick update on the Seahawks-Rams game. Rams have the ball at the 2nd and 6 at the Seahawks 39-yard line. About 5.5 minutes left in OT. They're marching right down. I think that would be a huge win for the Rams, but that's...
Aaron, I think we should stick with that game for the next few seconds.
Stick with it?
I think we should stick with that game for the next few seconds. Tied overtime 2020 by Aaron's reaction. It is a touchdown. Wow. DeMarcus Robinson. Rams just won in overtime. Seattle can't get it going at home. And do you remember how feared the 12th man was?
That now it's the Legion of Boom era, that 12th man is non-existent anymore. The 12th man is dead. That it doesn't exist. And you hate to see it because having something that daunting is just, it's really cool for storylines. It makes games more exciting. Even as someone who's not a fan of the Seahawks, is like, hey, that if you watch a Seahawks home game, you're going to see some good football. You're going to see a great crowd atmosphere, but just not anymore. But talking about the NFC West, that's going to be a good transition to our next segment. We're going to try and hit on some other games. And first up, NFC West rival, Arizona Cardinals. They win their 3rd game in a row. They're sitting at 5-4 right now. I think that they're in the lead for the division, I believe. Rams will be at 4-4. Seattle's going to be at 4-5.
Yeah.
Jason, him and Cody still perfect with their picks coming down to tonight. That's
dude, that's crazy to me. What? There's going to be an undefeated person for the Out of Pocket picks.
That's awesome. Love to see it, but back to the NFC West, it's close. You're seeing the Rams with their players back. Puka got ejected. Was it a punch? Was it not a punch? I don't really think so. I think that's a pretty weak ejection, if you ask me. But Cooper Kupp, 11 catches, 104 yards. Demarcus Robinson, 694, and the game-winning touchdown in overtime.
Mhm.
So this Rams team at almost full strength is dangerous. They beat Minnesota last week. They beat Seattle this week. The division games are always tough. With how up in the air the NFC West is right now, do you think that Arizona, riding the momentum of 3 in a row, has the best chance to win right now, or this full strength Rams team?
Well, dude, I would still look at the 49ers because the 49ers haven't been at full strength and they're 4-4 and they're in the thick of it. Honestly, everybody record base is in the thick of it, but the 49ers are the only NFC West team who has a positive point differential. Everybody else has been outscored this season. So if the 49ers can be 4-4 without Christian McCaffrey, and you get McCaffrey back, dude, that opens up that offense. I still believe the 49ers with McCaffrey are a top 5, top 6 team in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta agree with you there, but I mean, can he stay healthy? When he's healthy, we know he's great. We know he's arguably the best. Actually, no, not. I think Derrick Henry's the best running back in the league right now. He's absolutely
100%.
tearing it up at a level that you just don't really see from running backs that are getting up there a little bit in age for running backs, which is great to see. And speaking of Baltimore, they bounced back from that Browns loss big time, put up 41 against the Broncos. This Ravens team, when they play as good as they can, that might be the best offense in the league. It's just too much to stop. You got Lamar Jackson, one of the best dual threat quarterbacks of all time. You got ageless Derrick Henry, who just had his 100th career rushing touchdown this week. And Zay Flowers is killing it. I mean, you got weapons everywhere. They don't even have to really target Mark Andrews or Isaiah Likely to still put up 41 points. They have weapons up and down that depth chart. Michael, when the Ravens play at their best, do you think that they could dethrone the Chiefs for the AFC and make the Super Bowl?
Dude, I think they are the best chance at doing that. Now the Ravens don't perform well, in recent years in the playoffs. I feel like Lamar should get the same treatment that Dak Prescott does when it comes to team playoff success, if we wanted to put that out there. But dude, like how they're playing right now, I mean, this is why, obviously with the Cowboys running back woes, like I wish they had went after Derrick Henry. It was like the easiest no-brainer in the world.
Mhm.
But if nothing else, just keep Derrick Henry away from Baltimore because it's bad enough trying to contain Lamar Jackson. Can you imagine like Lamar and Derrick Henry, and now you're getting some weapons on offense with Zay Flowers. They didn't even have to use Deontay Johnson this week. They didn't have to use Isaiah Likely. Both 0 catches. Mark Andrews only a couple catches. Nelson Aguilar. I mean, if you were throwing to Nelson Aguilar in recent years, that's bad. You're like, oh my gosh, our receiving core is awful. But he has a catch and boom. Like it is so seamless and easy for Baltimore right now. And I'm jealous because that could be literally any team if they had went and signed Derrick Henry for $8 million.
Yeah, but I mean, according to good old Jerry, he just wasn't a scheme fit. He wouldn't be doing what he was doing in Baltimore if he was in Dallas, which, I mean, that feels ridiculous. You know, Derrick Henry's going to be great. You go out and sign him for cheap. It feels like a no brainer, but this is something we didn't hit on the Cowboys now that we're talking about it again real quick. Rico Dowdle had a solid game. He looked decent. Michael, how would you feel about Dallas moving forward with Rico Dowdle as a RB1?
Um, I think he showed some burst today, for sure. I want to know what's going on with Zeke, man. I'm going to read everything I can this week and be like, yo, what happened? I mean, you're a locker room leader and we needed you. Like, we could have used you. It's never, ever good when a player's literally sitting because, you know, off the field issues, especially a locker room leader, historically, like Zeke's been. Really disappointed.
Yeah, he's still watching JC Horn to the Commanders. Absolutely not. You taken enough of the Panthers' good defensive players. Get your hands off of JC Horn, please.
He
Stay
can't
away.
stay healthy. He
He's
can't
one
stay
of
healthy.
no, he can't. He's also one of the only consistently competent players on that defense. He's also one of the only people who has some value. So I don't really know. I hope they hold on to him just because I don't think it's a good move. Like you said, you get good players, you keep them in the locker room as long as
That
they
is true.
can.
That
I
is
think
true.
they got to hold on to JC Horn. Jason half shirt party Zeke is back.
Jason loves giving me a hard time right now.
It's
okay.
fun.
It's okay.
It's fun.
When
And about your
when the Giants lose to the Panthers next week, come back at me. Come back at me. NY.
I will be insufferable if the Panthers win that game, even though it's at 9:30, and I'm probably not going to be able to watch it because I have to open the restaurant on Sunday mornings, which sucks. But speaking of bad teams, Cleveland comes crashing back down to earth after their upset victory over the Ravens in Week 8. Panthers 2-7, Pats 2-7, Raiders, Browns, Jags, and Saints. They're all 2-7. Michael, who do you think the worst team in the league is right now?
Worst team in the league? I'm trying not to say Dallas. No, I don't think Dallas is the worst team in the league.
No.
Dude, it's tough. Like it's really tough. I'd honestly want to say Carolina. They I mean, I am big on point differential too, and that's why I was basing a lot of the NFC West stuff on. But the Carolina Panthers are negative 146 on point differential, which means they've been outscored by 146 points this year. The closest team to that are the Raiders, who have been outscored by 83 points. I mean, so you don't always have to look at, the point differential or, the records, but if it is that significant of an amount, there's something wrong offensively and defensively. But the Panthers in their own right, like, they've had a lot of injuries. Like, when you lose Derek Brown, when you trade away Brian Burns, when you just give up on the season and you trade Deontay Johnson to Baltimore, like it's pretty bad in Carolina. So I could thank you for asking me that question because I could throw some shade back in your direction just a little bit.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. Chris throwing shade at Jason's Giants. Chris thinks the Giants are the worst team in the league. Jason thinks it's Jacksonville.
Dude, I thought they had it against Philadelphia. I thought they had it. I was like getting hyped. Doug Peterson beating his former team. Okay, Eagles fans are going to be like, oh my gosh, Nick Sirianni, we need to fire him because we lost to the Jags. I mean, dude, they almost completed the comeback. And if it wasn't for Trevor throwing a terrible interception in the red zone, Jaguars probably beat the Philadelphia Eagles.
Moving on, like you said, super close game. I don't think Jacksonville's the worst team in the league. They're playing like Philly is a solid team despite their struggles, and Jacksonville almost beat them. Do you think Jacksonville's better than their 2-7 record would indicate? And what do you think the cause behind that is, losing these close games? Could it come down to coaching? Like, I feel that Doug Peterson's got to be on the hot seat by now. Like, you can't lose all these close games and still be a head coach at the end of the season.
Oh, 100%. I thought he was done. Like they lost that Bears London game, and I was like, okay, they would be fired. But then they stayed in London a week after and played the Patriots. I'm like, if you don't beat the Patriots, you need to find your own plane ticket. I mean, I thought it was that bad, and he sneaked one out 32-16 against Patriots. But to be fair, like they've had a difficult schedule for the most part. I mean, the Dolphins week 1 when they had Tua, the Bills, the Texans, Caleb Williams and the Bears, the Packers, the Eagles, and then the next few weeks they have like the Vikings, Lions, and Texans. Like those are 3 automatic losses. It doesn't start getting easier until after that Texans game. December and January is a little bit easier for them, but dude, it's bad. And especially like having the quarterback and you're supposed to have the coach figured out. Like, I don't know about you, but like that should solve a lot of problems, especially in a weaker AFC South.
Yeah, for sure. I'm losing faith in Doug Peterson, honestly. I thought it was a pretty solid hire when they brought him into Jacksonville, but it's not looking like it. I think he's gone. I'd love to see a Ben Johnson or Bobby Slowick get over to Jacksonville. I think a good offensive play caller would be phenomenal for Trevor Lawrence to have. But speaking of close games, back-to-back weeks, the Miami Dolphins drop it. I mean, it feels like they're right there. Tua's back. Offense is looking functional again. They can't win these close games. Michael, what do you think that they need to do to get over that hump and pick up the victories?
Dude, I don't know, man. This is weird because it's like, dude, watching this team last year, it was like Tyreek couldn't be stopped, Jalen Waddle couldn't be stopped, Mostert couldn't be stopped. Now they did have the run game going a little bit this game, but I think they could have stuck with it a little bit more. When both of your top running backs are averaging over 5 yards a carry, you need to help out. Tua didn't even have a bad game. Like when you throw 3 incompletions for 2 touchdowns, offensively this week wasn't the problem. Even though like Jalen Waddle needs to show up. They're like literally, how do you have 2 catches, a touchdown, but negative 4 yards? Explain that stat line to me. But let's also give the offense credit for Buffalo. Like Josh Allen playing really good. He's taking care of the ball for the most part. Sometimes you just are going to lose these close games. I don't think losing a close game on the road in Buffalo is, the end all be all. I was more concerned about them losing to Arizona last week, Indianapolis the week before, earlier in the year against Tennessee and Seattle. Like these were the games I was worried about. But all of a sudden you just don't have a chance because you're 2-6 now, excuse me. Buffalo 7-2. Like all of a sudden you've basically lost the division, especially since Buffalo swept you for this season already. Like there's nothing you can do. And Aaron, I don't even know, like, do you keep putting Tua out there with the risk of him potentially getting concussed again? Because it could happen, unfortunately.
I mean, it feels like the season's almost lost. I think they're going to give it a couple more weeks, but I mean, the smart thing would, once you know you're going to be done, I don't think it's smart to put Tua out there anymore, given his history. You just don't want to get the guy hurt because he is a good quarterback when he's healthy and playing. I mean, look at their offense when Tua was out and look at their offense with Tua back in. He is clearly incredibly essential to that Miami Dolphins offense. Chris thinks they got to get Tyreek more involved. And Carson, Doug Peterson, bottom 3 coach in the league. Ben Johnson would be great in Jacksonville.
Why didn't Ben get a job last year?
I think he wanted to stay in Detroit is what it was. I'd be shocked if he didn't get offers. I think he's going to be a head coach this offseason. I just don't see him staying in Detroit, and then that'll bring the question up: who's going to take over play calling for Detroit? Because I think a lot of that Detroit's offense success is based off of Ben Johnson, so they're going to have to get another great play caller in there. And granted, they got a lot of pieces to work with, so hopefully it shouldn't be too hard for a new OC to get adjusted in there. But it's going to be an interesting offseason for sure. But moving on to the primetime preview, Colts Vikings. Vikings open up as a 5.5-point favorites. Joe Flacco starting in place of Anthony Richardson, who struggled last week. We knew he had accuracy issues in college, and dear Lord, it has become incredibly apparent at how bad it is. And Shane Steichen had said Flacco is going to be their guy going forward this season. Michael, what do you think of Steichen benching Richardson for the rest of the season?
I don't even think it's right to phrase it like Shane Steichen benched Anthony Richardson. I'd say Anthony Richardson benched Anthony Richardson. You know, to quote my famous World Wrestling Entertainment line, when Anthony Richardson did this and set out because he was tired, that's not a quarterback leader, Aaron. Like
Mm-mm.
Bryce Young, you know, he's a saint. He was picked 2 picks ahead of Anthony Richardson last year, and Bryce was benched because of performance, and he took it to heart. Like he was sad because he felt like he let his team down. He felt like he didn't play up to his standards, and he took it to heart. But Anthony Richardson's like, I don't want to play this play because I'm tired.
Yeah, it's a bad look. You got to think that a big reason he's getting benched is because of that. I mean, granted, the guy's 22 years old. He's still super young. Hopefully, that's just maybe a little bit of immaturity or something, because he is super talented. I mean, you see him do some things that are just insane. The guy's got a cannon of an arm. He's super mobile. I hope he can get it together, because I mean, who doesn't want to see just 65, 70-yard bombs? It's super fun to watch. But we're just about out of time. Or also, Colts offensive line's banged up. Vikings pass rush is really good. Colts are starting rookie offensive tackle out of Chris's favorite college football team ever, Pittsburgh, Matt Goncalves. And to the Colts offensive line credit, they've only given up 15 sacks all season. That's the 7th fewest in the league. That Vikings pass rush, though, like I said before, 24 sacks on the season. That is tied for 4th most in the league. Do you think they're going to really go after that inexperienced rookie tackle making his first start? And how do you see this playing out, Michael?
It could be trouble. It could be a little bit of trouble. But at the end of the day, I think the Colts get it done, man. I really do. Getting Joe Flacco in there show like, hey, we got a quarterback who actually cares. I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see Joe Flacco just show Anthony Richardson, hey, here's how you carry a team. Because Flacco's won a Super Bowl before. He knows what it takes. And Flacco's not going to bitch himself because he's tired.
Yeah, I mean, I got to disagree with you there. I think it's going to be a solid game. I think Flacco's going to have that offense looking really good. I'm starting Josh Downs in one of my fantasy leagues. Hopefully he's going to go off, because he was playing really good when Flacco was in earlier this season. But Michael, before we go, you said the Colts are going to get it done. So I know you think they're going to win, but what's your final score prediction for this game?
My final score prediction, it's going to be low. It's going to be low. I think it's going to be 24-18. 24-18 Indianapolis. And great job, Joe. I'm already telling you, great job.
I'm going to go opposite end of that. I think it'll be close to. I'm taking Minnesota, though. I'm going to say Minnesota. It's going to be 27-21. Minnesota gets it done. It'll be good, though. I just think starting a rookie tackle against a pass rush that is that good, just isn't a recipe for success. I think Goncalves is a solid tackle. Hopefully he does well. Want to see rookies succeed, but it's going to be rough. That Brian Flores defense has been pretty good. Granted, the last few weeks it's been off, but that's going to do it for week 9 of the Gridiron Address. Thank you all for watching. Michael, any last words for the people before we head off?
Brian Branch should not have been ejected.
Heard that, and that'll do it for week 9. Everyone have a good night, and let's watch some good football.